Stormgate had a rocky launch, to say the least. It's a free-to-play early access RTS, heavily inspired by StarCraft 2. It's being developed by Giant Studios, and if it's not obvious from the gameplay, it's a studio made up of a lot of former Blizzard devs. It had a fairly successful Kickstarter campaign, which I actually took part in, and at the time it looked really promising. It seemed to have everything you'd want from a new Blizzard-style RTS. A cinematic single-player campaign, a dedicated co-op mode like StarCraft 2's, and a 1v1 competitive ladder for folks who wanted that. But when it first launched, a lot of that promise felt half-baked, and honestly I was kinda disappointed. I found it hard to see the potential I thought was there at first. There was a lot I did not like, but before I get to that and what has changed with the recent update, I want to acknowledge the stuff that Stormgate actually does really well. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and guess if you're watching a Stormgate video, you got some RTS experience. So I won't go too deeply into mechanics and stuff like that, but I do want to briefly touch on what I like and respect about the direction Stormgate took with its gameplay. It just felt and still feels really good to play. All the menus are easily accessible by using Q, W, E, R, and T on your keyboard, so there's no need to place production and resource building into control groups. Builders automatically construct anything you place down, and units can be created quickly with just a press of a few buttons. It helps manage the micro side of the game without removing it entirely. Spacebar selects your entire army, and you can even enable auto control groups. There's also an AI helper bot. I haven't used it much, but if enabled, it helps by automatically creating buildings, expanding your base, and training units. I'm not sure if it's following a specific build order or something, but I like the idea behind it. All of this combined creates a great entry point for newer players into the genre, and actually fixes a lot of little annoyances I've had with other RTS games. On top of that, I think the factions themselves are designed really well. They're both similar enough to the faction in StarCraft to feel familiar, but different enough so they don't feel like a direct copy. All of these features are still in the current build, and they keep getting improved, so hats off to the devs there. But let's get into the stuff that kinda turned me and a lot of other people, I think, off the game originally. Their main focus from the start seems to have been competitive 1v1. I personally think the early push for PvP was a mistake. It was definitely their most complete mode at launch, but it also felt like it left everything else behind. And if you weren't into ranked PvP, there wasn't really much else to latch onto. There was co-op, but there just wasn't enough there. I always felt like it felt more like a mod for the game than a proper game mode. The performance was also incredibly bad, struggling more and more as the game went on. Their early aggressive push with microtransactions left a bad taste in my mouth, and the lack of a proper skirmish mode just felt awful. They had also promised this epic single-player story, but they somehow managed to make a demonic invasion of Earth just bland and forgettable. Let me know if this sounds familiar. The main character in the human campaign is a young, tragic hero. She's willing to do whatever it takes in order to enact her revenge and save the world, slowly embracing demonic powers and losing sight of what she stood for in the first place. It also just looked really ugly. The main characters were these plasticky looking monstrosities that looked more like off-brand action figures than anything else. And the cutscenes were so weird. Every single one had this shaky camera and terrible close-ups of their models. The thing is, their main microtransactions were planned around extra campaign chapters and new heroes for the co-op mode. So you can probably see why both of these features failing wasn't a great look for the game. After that disastrous launch and the sharp decline in the player base, Giant seems to have taken a step back and actually listened. The first big thing to talk about is the new campaign. They went back to the drawing board here and came up with a whole new story. The opening cutscene is still the same. And the characters still have the same names, but everything else is different. You're now part of a human refugee army returning to Earth 15 years after losing the war against the Infernals. The world is in rough shape, and the only way to stop them is to go back to where it all started and find a way to send the demons back to hell. The missions are a lot more fun this time around, and they also look really good. The new lighting is fantastic, especially in the indoor environments, and the updated unit models are a massive step up from the old ones. They've redone a lot of the Vanguard hero models and basically remade a big chunk of the Infernal roster. It just fits the overall vibe of the game so much better now. Between missions, you return to your capital ship, where you can walk around and talk to NPCs. The voice acting is a bit weird in spots, but overall it's a massive improvement. You can also permanently upgrade your army between missions by using credits earned by completing optional objectives. Everything here feels solid, and I'm genuinely excited to see what they do next. All these changes also carry over to outside the campaign. The versus maps look better now, units stand out more and respond better, and the game itself is faster, which makes some of the slower units more viable. Also, from the few co-op matches I've played, it definitely seems to run a lot better now. All of this is a step in the right direction. The game looks better, runs better, and overall just feels more interesting. You can try the first 3 campaign missions for free and see how you like it. And I can also happily say the skirmish AI is actually competent now, if you want to mess around with that. That said, they're still charging $10 per campaign chapter. And while it's definitely better now, I still feel like it's too much for just 3 short missions. Especially when there are plenty of RTS games out there, both new and old, with full campaigns and better single-player content for like $30 to $40. The player base is also still really low, which directly affects 2 of the 3 main game modes. Because of that, queues can take a while, and in PvP, you're not guaranteed to get a fair match. I don't think Stormgate is quite there yet, but it does feel like it's finally heading in the right direction. Frost Giant is clearly full of passionate people, and because I don't enjoy watching games fail, I genuinely hope they manage to turn things around. But the co-op still feels janky. The campaign is too expensive for its length, and if they don't manage to attract a decent player base again, I don't see its 1v1 surviving either. This update is fantastic though, and if you bounced off it at launch, now might be a good time to take another look and see what you think, especially the free parts. And as always, thank you for watching.